Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to the Culture Academy Conference 2022, Forging Ahead, the Arts and Culture in a New World. This conference is organized by Culture Academy Singapore, the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. The full program rundown, short blurbs of individual panels, and information about our panelists for today's conference can be accessed on our microsite via the QR code shown on the screen or also behind your name badges as well. For today's conference, we will be using Pigeonhole Live to collate questions for the Q&A sessions. To access the platform, you can scan the QR code behind your name badge or go to pigeonhole.at, CACONF22. With that, we will be starting this event very shortly. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome our guest of honor, Ms. Low Yen Ling, Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, and Ministry of Trade and Industry. A very good morning to our guest of honor, Ms. Low Yen Ling, Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, and Ministry of Trade and Industry. Good morning, MOS Low. Thank you for joining us this morning. Dr. Lee Tung Jin, Deputy Secretary, Culture and Sports, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. Mrs. Rosa Daniel, Dean, Culture Academy. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning. Welcome to the Culture Academy Conference 2022. My name is Lester Liu. It's my pleasure to be the MC for this wonderful event this morning. The theme for this year's conference, a flagship event of Culture Academy, is Forging Ahead, the Arts and Culture in a New World. Our panelists will explore the role of the arts and culture sector in the creative economy and how it can contribute to and develop a vibrant and sustainable ecosystem. We will also discuss and learn more about the opportunities and threats facing the sector as the world recovers from COVID-19, as well as the geopolitical, technological, and social disruptions. We will first begin with a heart-thumping performance by the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts, specially commissioned for today's conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome our students and alumni from NAFA. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our students and alumni from NAFA. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you very much. Wow, what a wonderful opening, ladies and gentlemen. And let me share with all of you a bit more information about our performance. This performance was brought to you by the students and alumni from the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts School of Music, performing on ethnic percussion instruments. An original commission crafted by sonic artist and composer Dane Ng, Heartbeat is an introspective expression of sound, visual, and lighting elements that aims to blend the boundaries between the physical and the virtual realms. This performance reflects a communal desire to achieve a balance between disruption and opportunities in an increasingly digital and globally connected world. So once again, can we give our performance a big round of applause once again from Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts. Thank you very much to our wonderful performance. Please allow me some time to share with all of you a bit more about the program for today. So later on, we will be starting this event with an opening address by Dean of Culture Academy Singapore, Mrs. Rosa Daniel. This will be followed an address by our guest of honor, MOS Loh. After which, our keynote address by Mr. John Newbegin, OBE. And this will be followed by tea break. And after we come back from tea break, we will be having our first panel titled Creativity and Technology, the Engines of the Future. And we will have a sumptuous lunch prepared for all our guests today. And after which, when we return from lunch, we will be having our second panel titled We Have Never Been Here Before, Social Capital in a New World. So very excited, looking forward to the program for today. Well, also, I just want to share with all of you that we also have a visual artist today that will be recording the proceedings from the stage, and it will be available for your viewing during lunchtime. All right, so our visual artist, if you would like to take a look, is just right behind Wendy. She will be recording the proceedings that will be happening here on stage. And I will share with all of you a bit more later on as well, where you can view the visual recordings later on during lunchtime. Well, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, now later on, you'll be hearing some wonderful background music as well. So that music is specially brought to all of you by the Singapore Symphony Orchestra. So we'd like to say a big thank you to SSO for your wonderful curated music specially prepared for all our guests today. Well, so ladies and gentlemen, with that, we are ready to begin. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mrs. Rosa Daniel, Dean of Culture Academy Singapore, on stage to say a few words. Mrs. Daniel, please.
What a wonderful performance, right? And a resounding start to the day. Ms. Low Yen Ling, Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, and Trade and Industry, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and a warm welcome to the Culture Academy's 5th conference, Forging Ahead, the Arts and Culture in a New World. The Culture Academy, or CA, comes under the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. It was launched in 2015 with the objectives of deepening thinking and creativity in cultural institutions and to build professional capabilities amongst our arts administrators and cultural leaders. Since its launch, the Academy has reached out to more than 5,000 through training programs for our cultural leaders, conferences, symposiums, and publications. While we had to put on hold physical activities during the COVID challenges throughout 2020 and 2021, we were able to ramp up activities through online programs and research insights. Now in 2022, we have fully resumed our activities, and today's conference marks the return of a signature program presented by the Academy. In its 5th edition, the CA Conference continues to bring together thought leaders, cultural institutions, arts organizations, and practitioners to share perspectives and explore topical concerns. Over the past editions, the CA has identified topical issues pertinent to the sector and invited eminent futurists, thought and cultural leaders, and practitioners to share their insights. These have featured digital transformation and its impact on the sector, the revival of cities and communities through culture, inclusivity and communities, and driving forces that will shape our operating environment. This edition returns with a focus on forging ahead and exploring the topic of creativity and the arts. As the operating environment evolves amid ongoing technological and social disruptions, 3 questions come to mind. 1, what elements are needed for a vibrant creative economy, and how can the culture sector stay relevant and competitive? 2, how can the sector build capabilities and capacity by leveraging creativity and technology to engage and grow audiences? And 3, how can cultural leaders and practitioners better work with communities, industry partners, and stakeholders to build economic and social capital? Cultural organizations and practitioners have an increasingly relevant role in contributing to the creative economy, providing spaces for community exchanges, and learning and improving mental well-being through arts and cultural engagement. But it is necessary in an increasingly complex world with fast-paced change that state-funded institutions also partner with private and community sectors, not just within the arts sector, but also in adjacent sectors such as technology and design. This will provide wider perspectives and solutions to our challenges that are more resilient and robust. Rising geopolitical tensions and supply chain disruptions have demonstrated the need for a collective sense of civic duty and participation in today's interconnected and yet polarized world. This interdependent relationship requires cultural institutions, as well as economic and community stakeholders in the arts and culture sector, to shift our mindsets and adjust our behaviors and strategies for the individual and collective good. So we very much look forward to hearing our distinguished speakers who come from very different backgrounds and countries. So the Culture Academy will continue to nurture current and future generations of cultural leaders, deepen policy research and scholarship, and foster strong international linkages within and beyond Southeast Asia. We will strive to stay dynamic and relevant by providing platforms and opportunities to deepen thinking and leadership capabilities among our culture sector. So in closing, I would like to thank all our wonderful young musicians again from the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts who gave us the wonderful performance we just enjoyed. I would very much like to thank our keynote speaker, Mr. John Newbegin, Creative Industries Ambassador for the Mayor of London, and many other titles that I probably don't have time to go to, but thank you very much for coming all the way here to talk to us. And we have the Mrs. Doris Soman-Pao. Thank you so much, Doris, CEO of a Human Capital Leadership Institute, for moderating this session later. So we very much look forward to an insightful time that will follow shortly. Our appreciation extends to our speakers and moderators from the 2 panels. It is a wonderful opportunity to hear perspectives and insights from you, and this is from within and outside of Singapore. For the first panel, I would like to thank Mr. Adrian Collett, CEO, Australia Council for the Arts, Mr. Kwok Meng Roo, Group CEO and founder, Caldecott Music Group, Mr. Kenny Power, founder and CEO of Rebel Owl, and of course, Mr. Chris Lee, Assistant CEO at National Gallery, who will moderate the session. In the second panel, I would like to thank Dr. Venker, Deputy President and Provost, LaSalle College of the Arts, Mr. Joe Sidek, Chairman, Penang Arts Council, and they will be moderated by Professor Audrey Yue, Head Department of Communications and New Media, National University of Singapore. And finally, on behalf of the Culture Academy and all of us here, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Minister of State, Ms. Loh Yen Ling, for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us here today. So I wish everyone a very meaningful and fruitful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Daniel. Ladies and gentlemen, now gives me great honor and pleasure to invite our guest of honor, MOS Loh, on stage for the address. MOS Loh, please.
Very good morning, and it's really wonderful to be back for a physical conference, yeah? Rosa mentioned it's the 5th one, right? And I think it's been a few years since we could hold this in a face-to-face session. A very good morning, Your Excellencies, especially our distinguished speakers who flew in from overseas, as well as distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, really good morning to all of you. And it is with great delight that I join you today at the Culture Academy Biannual Conference, and with the theme, Forging Ahead, the Arts and Culture in a New World. Indeed, in a new world post-COVID. Now today we are really privileged Rosa has already thanked all the distinguished guests, our speakers, many friends amongst us. Now we are very privileged to have with us esteemed speakers from Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and of course, United Kingdom, all leaders in the field of culture, creative, economy, and technology. Indeed, I think this is an exciting time. We're talking about arts and culture, but at the confluence with technology and also the creative economy. Now, to all our speakers, panelists, as well as participants, your wealth of experience presents a wonderful opportunity for all of us to come today to exchange best practices and learn from one another. I turned to our keynote speaker and I told him that I'm going to spend at least 2 hours here. I'm really looking forward to his keynote address and the panel discussion later. But just like Rosa, allow me a couple of minutes. Today I would like to take the opportunity to reflect on the growth of our arts and culture scene in Singapore and how it has developed through the years and what's ahead of us. The arts and culture scene went through a very difficult 2.5 years period. I think we all know. Those were the darkest moments, and we know that 1 in 2 arts and culture practitioner is a freelancer, is a self-employed person. And that's why, in MCCY, NAC, NHB, we work very closely with the sector, with the organizations, as well as our self-employed persons to see how we can, strike a good balance between saving livelihood as well as preserving our capability in our arts and culture scene. We remember, due to the safe distancing measures, many performances and cultural events had to be cancelled, put on hold. And I remember last year coming out, we could attend small-scale event. Well, I tell you, we started with 50 packs in SSO, SCO, and it was very moving, to be able to come back and attend a live performance. All of us yearned to be part of that. And, sitting in a big hall that could sit up to 800, the 50 of us felt fairly lonely, all quite stranded, a few seats away. But, we really gave our orchestra a resounding applause because I think they deserve that. And arts and culture practitioners as well as audiences were very much affected by the disruption. So since March this year, I think it's all coming back, and with the lifting of the measures, you can see the exuberant, array of activities, whether it's musical performances, visual arts, etc. Now, in the last 2.5 years, collectively, we recognize the challenges, and the Singapore government, especially MCCY, NAC, NHB, and of course with our gallery and museum, we came together, worked with the community, and we sought to give our arts and culture sector the support that they need to protect livelihood, like I've mentioned earlier, as well as to preserve, in fact, to build new capabilities, such as in digital technology. That's why we have the digital presentation grants. For example, $75 million in funding was quickly released to the arts and culture sector via the ACRP, if you remember, and that's called the Arts and Culture Resilience Package. Now, if you remember, it offered support schemes which were designed very quickly to position the sector for a strong recovery. The fund also provided specific grants for self-employed persons, recognizing that 1 in 2 practitioner is a freelancer. The ACRP also provided resources for organizational transformation because we really want to use the opportunity to future-proof our arts and culture organization as well as practitioner. Number 3, provided venue hire subsidies to help our arts and culture organizations to defray the cost, the immediate concern. And this was in addition to the JSS, Jobs Support Schemes for Singapore businesses and organizations. Now, we saw how the whole sector persevered with solidarity, and we were greatly heartened by the grit, the resilience, the determination that's shown by our arts and culture sector. We saw for ourselves how many organizers and practitioners adapt very quickly to the situation, adapted digital tools and technology. I remember the friends at Ting Yi told me, they said, Moss, actually, we had to really make sure we capture all the performance and share that with our audience at home, not just in Singapore, but it allowed their performance to travel beyond Singapore to the region and the world. And in order to do so, they need to really curate it like a production. And it's not just having just one camera, right? Just capturing the performance. It's more thoughtful than that, the close-up, etc., and the post-edit, post-production. Now, despite encountering many challenges in the last 2.5 years, our practitioners as well as our arts and culture organization really used the opportunity to innovate and develop new approaches. Like I've mentioned, like using the digital platform to create and showcase their art. And we want to say kudos to them for leveraging the digital presentation grant. And it actually allows a lot of their performance to continue to travel even now. Even now, in the past, when we think about a performance, it is only to be enjoyed by the audience who came for that performance. But if we continue to leverage digital technology, it will allow other audience who can't travel to, that auditorium or that theater to also be able to benefit from the performance. Now, you remember during the pandemic, the arts and culture sector accelerated the adoption of digital technology. Let me just share with you one very interesting one. For example, on the International Friendship Day, that was in the thick of COVID. Those were the darkest moments in July 2020, slightly more than 2 years ago. Very proud of our Singaporean Wong Kah-chun. He was the chief conductor of the Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra, and he took the initiative to conduct an immersive digital performance entitled Beethoven 360 Degree that brought musicians from 25 nations together to give hope to everyone, the audiences from all over the world. That is the power of arts and culture, right? It shows us that arts is an essential to nourish our soul, especially during the darkest moment. And indeed, digitalization has broken down physical barriers and provided us in the arts and culture scene unprecedented opportunities for the people to create and experience the arts and culture across borders. Now, we can certainly expect this trend to stay even in the new normal. So our greed and ability to innovate, I think, has helped us overcome the disruptive impact of the pandemic years. And having seen how we have come together in solidarity, I think we have got what it takes to press on with greater strength and courage for the future, to be future ready. Now, looking ahead, we know that arts and culture and heritage will continue to play a role in enriching our lives, our soul, and enlivening our lives. Because the appreciation and cultivation of arts, culture, and heritage really bring together people from all walks of life, all kinds of background, together to allow us to interact, to connect, and to express ourselves like today, in a very safe space. We can come together to agree, to disagree in a very safe space, to experiment, to push the boundary. And the arts also support learning and education, as well as improvement of society. I say that because earlier I chatted with Wai Lan. Wai Lan is a colleague. She's the president of NAFA, and I know her from my 5-year stint in MOE, and I'll touch on that later. But education and learning as well. Now, in addition, the connections between the arts and cultural sphere and other sectors will continue to grow, which is why earlier we talked about us together convening not just as an arts and culture community, but technology, creative industry, innovation, right? And of course, this is an area where VCs, business angels are also coming to it. Now, the skills traditionally valued in the arts, such as aesthetic, if we all know by now, because of the digital era, social media era, are now increasingly in demand. Aesthetics is becoming important in every sector, such as design, advertisement, etc. Arts and culture content have also become a treasure trove for entertainment companies like the streamers, the Netflix, etc., which have successfully turned local stories into wider success for global audience. So I think there's really wide application. However, I think you agree with me, especially with the global development, with volatile geopolitical tension, we continue to face an overcast sky as uncertainties loom with the current global economy and geopolitical headwinds. So allow me very quickly over the next few minutes, as I was reflecting over the last 1 week, what to share during today's conference, allow me to share very quickly on 3 key challenges that we face and how we can work closely together to overcome them. Even though I say challenges, but I think you agree with me. The COVID tells us that there's always an opportunity in a challenge, right? Now, the first challenge is the balance that we will need to strike and achieve between professionalizing the arts and culture sector at the same time being keenly supportive of our emerging artists. Now, we will all agree increasing professionalism in the arts and culture scene, or more broadly, the creative sector, will be critical for the healthy growth and maturity of the industry. Allow me to explain why. Now, as the works of arts and creative practitioner increasingly crosses over to other disciplines, whether is it design, advertisements, etc., their professional credentials will also gain more importance, as partners who are new or unfamiliar with the arts will look for some form of indicators to benchmark the artistic skills of practitioner. I say that because Mark is a good friend. We meet each other very regularly, design council, etc. And design is really critical now. Such a design council now comes under Economic Development Board, right? Very wide application. Professionalism is also necessary for Singapore to compete at the same level as other global culture powerhouses like those in New York, London, of course, which are supported by strong and sophisticated value chains. Now, over the years, Singapore has invested heavily in raising the professional capability of our artists and creatives. For example, through our scholarship. I was very proud and happy to meet our recent cohort of very strong scholars. And over the last 2 years, even during the darkest moment in COVID, we continue to invest in capability, developing our bench strength. NAC has supported arts and culture practitioners in taking up more than 6,000 training and skills development opportunities, including workshops, masterclasses, short-term courses, scholarships, as well as conferences like today. Now, while there is a need to increase the professionalism of the sector, we also want to make sure we avoid erecting high barriers to entry, which may inevitably shut out our young but talented arts practitioner, because we want to make sure we continue to welcome a pipeline of young talent. Certainly, we do not wish for them to have to jump through hoops or chase after certificates to prove their skills, when actually in the area of arts and culture, simply their portfolio should speak for itself. The portfolio and the work should speak for themselves. In addition, we want to ensure that our emerging and young artists without any professional qualification can also participate fully in the arts and cultural scene, like our NAFA alumni earlier. Now, this is very important because of the social value of the arts and culture. We have long-standing efforts in Singapore to make sure that the arts and culture sector is widely accessible, so that Singaporeans, regardless of the background, regardless of the financial situation at home, have the opportunity to pick up the arts, and not just as an audience, but to pick up an instrument, to learn performing or visual arts depending on their interest and talent. And from a very young age, and be able to enjoy the arts with friends and family and take to the stage, if they want to. And to that end, the reason why I talk about my previous 5-year stint in MOE, I am particularly proud of our Singapore Youth Festival. In short, we call it SYF, where more than 20,000 students participate and showcase their artistic talent every year. In the last 2 years, they have to take to Zoom, but nonetheless, they managed to, I didn't quite know how they managed to perform the symphony in unity, in harmony, but they did it. And this year, I was so happy that our Singapore Youth Festival returned to its physical edition. Wailan, I worked with Wailan in the past 5 years. In fact, in my 5-year stint in MOE 7 years ago. And she was the principal of St. Nicholas, and then we brought her back to MOE, and now she's our president of NAFA. And she shared with me that in her role as president of NAFA, in the last 2 years, she saw many of her previous students. In St. Nick's, they were exposed to arts and culture CCA, and they play an instrument in a band, and now they are in NAFA, and they hope to go professional. That is what we're talking about when we say developing pipeline and improving our bench strength. MCCY is certainly very committed to maintaining and improving the standards of professionalism in the creative sector, and while doing so, we want to keep the doors always open for emerging artists and new entrants like the students that Wailan spoke about earlier. Now, this is a delicate but certainly necessary balance that all of us as practitioner, as management of the arts and culture organization must continue to strike. Now, that's on the first one. How do we continue to professionalize the sector while making sure that we remain welcoming of new entrants? The second one is a topic that all of us have been grappling with, but I think we have come to we have actually found some good formula. Second challenge is how can the arts and culture sector continue to adopt new approaches to business model, revenue model, and financial sustainability. Now, we're very mindful that our arts and culture scene comprise both non-profit as well as for-profit organization. More and more arts group and practitioner are recognizing the importance of devising sustainable financial model for their work. They are looking at new models of earning and raising revenue, as well as monetizing creative content. In fact, monetizing the digital audience. We are still trying to figure that out together with SISTIC and many other partners, as well as diversifying funding support in addition to the existing government grants and philanthropy. Now, allow me to quickly give you one interesting example. I think we have seen many innovative models, and I must cite this one. Theatre companies like TTP, the theatre practice, they joined hands with Sightlines Entertainment. What did they do? They pivoted to offering, hear this, they pivoted to offering online interactive murder mystery games during the pandemic. Kid you not, all right? Now, there were some chuckles here. Now, it's online interactive murder mystery games during the pandemic. Pandemic did some funny thing to all of us, which apparently it proved to be very, very popular with the audience. So I think, there's space for us to test bed all these new ideas, which will have audience. Now, not just in Singapore, but perhaps also regionally and globally. We do this, why? Because we all know Singapore's small local population may not provide a large enough audience to form a long-term revenue base for our local arts group. So arts companies have been sharing with us how they have decided to appeal to regional and international audience. And they have to do so by balancing their desire for local content, which is differentiating, which is really a differentiating value proposition, as well as the need to ensure that what they produce is accessible, resonate, and is also attractive to the wider audience in the region and in the global market. Now, this challenge is not unique to the arts scene. I must tell you because I'm also not just representing MCCY, I'm also representing MTI today. And I see, my good friend Mr. Goh here, I know him for 20 over years. Many of you also wear many hats in the business sector. Now, this challenge that we talked about, going beyond Singapore, is also unique. Not unique to arts and culture, but it's one that's faced by our SMEs. Our SMEs, whenever they start to incorporate a company, they have to think local, but they have to scale to regional and, if possible, global market. For example, I'm thinking the arts and culture sector could also benefit from a strategy that our SMEs are also familiar with, what we call hunting in a pack. Hunting in a pack, of course, means complementing our skills, our strength, our competency, our network, and our resources, so that we can come together as a group, as a Singapore flag, flying our Singapore flag, to explore and penetrate new markets in the region and globally more easily by flying the Singapore flag proudly. Now, likewise, our Singapore Arts Group could also band together and work with each other. In fact, maybe leverage on partners that are outside, the art scene. There's nothing stopping us from riding on a queen bee, on a platform, maybe say CapitaLand, that has, big organizations in many companies, in many countries, in China and in other parts of the world, right, to enter a new market. Now, that's the second one, financial sustainability, new model to business, and also revenue model. Last but not least, it's about people, our talent. The future is really about helping our creative practitioners upgrade and stay relevant, to be future ready. And I think in the last 2.5 years, not just arts and cultural practitioners, all of us have to skill up. And we can resort to webinars, Zoom, or even bite-sized mobile learning. Increasingly, arts and cultural practitioners tell us, especially the freelancers and those in smaller companies, they tell us that, it helps to have multidisciplinary skill sets, especially in today's digital world. In today's world, it demands that our practitioners not only have creative and technical skills, but perform the tasks of marketing, managing social media, and technology, as well as the functions of human resource. So I'm very happy that our institute is here, and of course, finance as well. Now, in addition, practitioners are also expected to know about IPR, intellectual property rights protection, and also education pedagogy. So it's really wide-ranging, and this is where we want to provide you, our full support. Skills development beyond just creative skills have become the order of the day. Hence, with the help of our industry professionals, we established the Arts Resource Hub to provide resources for our self-employed artists to learn more about issues such as written contracts so that we can protect ourselves better as we negotiate contracts, and also other topics like intellectual property rights protection. Now, practitioners seeking to upskill can also benefit from a strong suite of programs at our different Institute of Higher Learning. Today, we have LaSalle with us, we have NAFA with us, and very soon we will have our University of the Arts, UAS, Singapore's first private arts university, which will welcome our first cohort of degree students in 2024. Earlier on, I was talking to the various stakeholders, the principals. They are hard at work sprinting to curate a really holistic curriculum to welcome our first intake of students at our UAS. Now, apart from enhancing tertiary arts education pathways, the university will contribute towards building of the arts ecosystem through collaborations with the industry, arts practitioners, and the researchers. I spoke to the various professors, the presidents, and they told me it's not just degree, but they will aspire to also supporting PhD holders, etc., right here in Singapore at our very own UAS. Now, besides training, having more international exchanges where creatives from around the world converge to tap on and learn from each other can certainly enhance and enrich our knowledge base. Such challenges can take place virtually or in person, such as today's conference. Now, through such events, practitioners can deepen our skill sets and horizon and also build connections with like-minded professionals. So, dear friends, the three challenges actually can be opportunities, right? Continuing collectively as one Singapore arts and culture sector to continue to professionalize our sector, but at the same time, be very welcoming of our young and new emerging artists. Number two, new approaches to new business model to achieve financial sustainability. And number three, continue to upskill ourselves and to future-proof ourselves in this new normal. And I know that we have the gumption, resolve, and creative spirit and energy to overcome all these challenges, in fact, to turn them into differentiating opportunities for our arts and culture scene right here in Singapore. And I want to assure you, to that end, the Singapore government, MCCY, NAC, and also NHB will stand alongside our arts and culture organization and practitioners, walk this journey with you. In fact, the Singapore Arts and National Arts Council, NAC, and the National Heritage Board, NHB, both Rosa, Winnie, and the team are here, are working on the next iteration of our SG Arts Plan and our SG Heritage Plan. And we work very closely with the stakeholders to curate this. We keep our eyes and ears on the ground. We take in your inputs and suggestions and feedback. And we will, with your support and participation, we will lay out the key priorities and strategies for growing our arts and heritage sector for the next 5 years. We look forward to identifying and seizing more opportunities ahead with the conference here today rebooting that journey. So on that note, again, I want to, on behalf of MCCY, NAC, NHB, thank all our distinguished speakers from Singapore, from UK, and other parts of the world. Thank all of you for spending your day here with us at the conference. It is a great platform for us to come together to exchange ideas and build networks and forge partnership. There is so much we can learn from each other, and I hope Beyond this conference, there will be many more opportunities for us to come together to shape and spur the arts and culture and heritage sector to great heights. On this note, I wish you a very fruitful and productive conference ahead. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, MS Loh, for your inspiring address. Thank you.